Again, talking about zoo matchups using my Gruul zoo with a splash of white to add some more to the OP. We got two interesting ones we're going to go over today. The first one is going to be Merfolk, and the second one, if I remember correctly, is something else. It is a good one, whatever it is. I can't remember entirely what it is, but we'll find out. Anywho, the first one's good against Merfolk, and the second one is against something else. So, just to note, I really do enjoy pushing my zoo more back into its roots, keeping it Naya, and also sort of having 20 burn, 20 creature spells, 20 lands. And while the deck does not look like it's divided like that, it kind of almost is. There are 14 more or less burn spells in the main board. These ones hit creatures, these ones hit creatures, these ones hit creatures. That's important. Boros Charm does not hit creatures directly. It does a lot to the face, but it indirectly hits creatures through the double strike. But it's definitely not nearly as good as a straight bolt or a lightning helix. But Gore Clan Rampager, in many ways, sort of sets up bad blocks and can be counted as burn in that respect. It just also happens to be an emergency 4/4 with trample. So he plays a lot of different roles, but the role he plays most commonly is trample over something and kill it. And if you look at that, and that's what Zoo mostly does. Red deck wins wants to throw the burn to the face to end the game. We're willing to throw the burn to the face to end the game, but we're more willing to burn the path of whatever's in front of our creatures and let our creatures end the game. We have more creature quality than they do. So, and if you look at it in that respect, we've got about 14 to 16. Creature burn cards in the main deck, and then a little bit more creature-wise because we're running Experiment 1 and Burning Emissary, who prefers creatures. So it's really nice to get back to that, and you'll see it in this upcoming play. Merfolk is don't let it be fooled by how aggressive it is. It is a tempo deck. It is not a control deck. It's not an aggro deck. It is a tempo deck. It aims to control the tempo of the game and out-tempo you, just like a tempo deck would. Except rather than making you fumble, it's more focused on putting out lords that buff each other, thus out-tempoing you by speeding their own tempo. And that's what it is. It's a very, very aggressive tempo deck. So you're going to want to treat it like any other tempo deck. Normally against burn decks, or against aggro decks, you just want to either be more aggressive or set up big blocks. But since it's a tempo deck, you want to burn what's causing their tempo boost, which is going to be their lords. Basically, this is dot lord deck. I believe they run something ridiculous like 16 to 20 lords in it. Other than the Silver Gill, and Curse Catcher, pretty much everything else is a lord. So that's what you want to do. And just to explain what I did there, I cracked my fetch for a Sacred Foundry because I wanted as much red as possible as soon as I saw that it was a Curse Catcher fish, so that I can use all my burn no matter what. And he's only got bounce spells or dismember. If he has a dismember, it doesn't matter if I have out of force. My Loom Line's gonna die. If he has a what do you call it? A bounce spell, well, it doesn't really matter either. And yes, you could say that I should have put down, I should have fetched a Temple Garden, so that I could have blocked this, or not let the aggression go through. But really, it wasn't my primary concern. My primary concern here was to just have the red possible at all points in time. I have 3 burn spells. I don't know if I need to use all 3 at once. That might be something that has to happen. So having the red was more important to me at that point than losing 2 points of damage, especially since I will gain control of the deck again and it won't matter. Here I'm being a little aggressive. I could have held it up to block, but I wanted to be a little bit aggressive. I really, 1 more point of damage or 2 more points of damage really was not that big of a concern to me. As such, I attacked with it. In my head, pretty much everything's going to die soon, so it really does not matter too much. And he's going to go ahead and play a Silver Guild because he's running out of gas now. He's going to show me the Master that he's got, so I know that my burn spell has to go to the Master at some point, and he's going to draw himself a card. All in all, not too bad of a deal. I'm also holding on to the Gorklan Rampager because it's better to set up a bad block. I don't want to just do it to be aggressive. So the better call here is just to hold it, and if I eventually can cast it and then start leave this guy up to block, as well as let my 4/4 trample over their stupid little dudes that aren't big at all, then that's what I should be doing. And I've got my Bolt mana open. I've got my my everything mana open. I can go ahead and basically burn whatever I want to do here. And so he blocks, which I don't think was a smart move, but he's trying to end the aggression. I think he was expecting this guy to live. So I went ahead and bolted that, or Lightning Helix that. And I did it on my main phase because I didn't want to risk him putting out another land and then having Cryptic Command mana open. I'd rather just get rid of it now. Now he's got two Mutavaults. Now these Mutavaults can swing in for 4 damage here, which doesn't really matter since I'm at 16 again because of that Lightning Helix. Lightning Helix is awesome, guys. Something that has been dropped from zoo lists, Gruul zoo lists, because, well, it's better against but the thing is, it's good against aggro decks. So against this, it's fine. I've nulled out one of his attacks while removed one of his creatures. That was a fine move. He's going to go ahead and Master Pearl Trident here to get me for 3 and basically undo my Lightning Helix. But I didn't really, I was more invested in killing his things. The added buff of basically fogging his turn is just gravy. And it also baits out this Master Pearl Trident. And me attacking is a little bit of a bait. I have, again, a shit ton of removal. I can either cast the Gorklan Rampager here, which I'm considering doing, and just leaving it up to block. But I think it's better at this point for me to go ahead and make sure that there are no ways for him to keep buffing. I would hate for him to draw a Lord and then cast 2 of them somehow. That's what I would hate to do. So it's just better for me to, in the end, just bolt it. So that's what I end up deciding to do. Because I'm going to main phase bolt it. Or I'm not going to main phase bolt it. I'm going to let him... Actually, yeah, that's what I end up doing. I leave my Loom Lion open to block. That's on purpose. I want him to swing in with a Mutavault. I want him to swing in with both Mutavaults, thinking I've got nothing to do with it. I'm going to end up bolting his Master Pearl Trident, and then considering if I want to bolt something else, or if I want to bolt his Mutavault. He attacks with both Mutavaults like I thought he was going to do. So this allows me to block and set up a bad block, bolt it, so it's now 2/2, that kills it, bolt that guy. So he's now has no chance to get to Cryptic Command mana ever. And he's down to 1 Curse Catcher, which is a lonely 1/1. At that point, I can cast Gorklan Rampager, and I can start swinging with this guy, or swinging with my 4/4 Trample, and there's really not much he can do about it since he's living on his top deck at this point, to find more Lords. But I've exhausted his resources. He may find 1 Lord, he may find 2 Lords, but it will probably be too late when there's a 4/4 beastie trying to kill you. So really, and again, Curse Catcher's not hard to play around. It's just you got to be aware that he exists and you can't tap out while trying to bolt something. A good thing to do against Curse Catcher is if you want to play a Tarmogoyf and you want to play a Bolt and you have 3 mana open, Bolt first. So that way he'll think it's just a waste of mana and a waste of his dudes if he does the sacrifice part. Then put the Tarmogoyf out. It's the best way around it. Alright, so game 2 doesn't last very long at all. Again, just having multitudes of burn in this deck is fantastic, because it does exactly what it needs to do, which is get rid of stuff that won't go down otherwise. so he may hold back on his lords. But having the access to bolt even screws up his attacks, like you saw. Like he can attack thinking, all right, well my guys are really buff, and then just it gets screwed over. And here's the deal: I was originally just going to go ahead and pass the turn and crack that on my at the end of turn, but it would be better for me to get the Curd Ape out so I can have a big butt blocker, as well as I can put out some early aggression. Almost like the affinity matchup where you are playing the control, but if you have an extra thing that can swing, you might as well. I figure the worst he can do right now, because he took a little bit of his own tempo out with the Ether Vial, is Ether Vial in a 1/1 Curse Catcher and cast a Lord of Atlantis. Either or on my upkeep, I can get rid of both of them, or I can just get rid of the Lord. That would probably be what I would do. So it's not a big deal, and he ends up doing even worse. He just puts out the Lord of Atlantis. He's got 3 drops with no way to get to 3 mana right now. That's not good for him. He's got Phantasmal Image, which can image the Lord, but it doesn't matter how big Phantasmal gets. Phantasmal is actually I would consider a weaker Lord in the deck, because although it copies the Lords and makes more Lords of Atlantis, the fact that thing can be a 4/4 with another 2 Lords out, and you go ahead and Pillar of Flame it and it dies because you targeted it, and then your other Lords are back to bolt toughness, is important. See, because that was just a Merfolk Rougerie instead, it would have been fine. We got the swing here because we can. Because why not? So you got the ability to put out a Phantasmal Image, which does nothing here. He has 3 Merfolk Rougeries, which if he had a land, if he drew a land instead of another Merfolk Rougerie, he might have been able to survive a little bit longer. But even then, what he's doing is he's putting out a Lord a turn or 2 Lords a turn, and I've got enough ways around it, basically everything, so that it does not matter. And I'll be swinging here with, 4 damage, bringing him down to 14, and then I've got 2, 5, 8 more damage on top of that if he basically does not recover his tempo. A burn can also be used to kill your opponent. So that's like a 2-turn clock. So the game's over. That's more or less what happens in against this specific matchup. You got to remember that you have more burn than them if you're running the more burn intensive version. And you got to remember that their creatures are strong together, weak on their own, unlike our creatures, which are just strong on their own. Moving on to this next matchup, I can't remember exactly what it was. I just remember it was very early in the morning. Right, okay, it was a mirror match. That's what it was. It was a mirror match. He was playing Domain Zoo, and I'm playing the Gruul Zoo with a splash of white. I actually think, and I forgot to unsideboard, by the way, which is why there's a Kitchen Finks here, and I'll draw a Volcanic Fallout later on. Does it give me an unfair advantage? I don't think so. I had enough burn. Plus, I probably would have had more early aggression had that not been a Finks. And Finks didn't actually matter in this matchup. I believe in the second game I sided it out. Regardless, I was not giving him another thing you should know about Deathrite Shaman is not to give him a fetch land to accelerate. I would have actually been up Schick's Creek if he Liliana this turn. That's what I was scared most about. But he's not a Jund deck. He is a 5-color Zoo deck. So he ends up having to The thing with the 5-color Zoo deck is it hurts itself so much with its lands. And without Bloodbraid Elf, I don't think it's good enough. I don't think if you're considering running Zoo that you should be running this. It does squeak by wins sometimes, just strictly off the backs of Snapcaster and Tribal Flames, and Deathrite Shaman sometimes. But I think against any deck that has any form of regression and redundancy, it does not matter. Like, he got rid of my Curd Ape. Well, that's not a big deal. I've got a Loom Lion and a Curd Ape for next turn to replace it. Yes, I am taking damage off my own lands. But in this deck, specifically, Lightning Helix is not good. It's better than all your other options, but it's not quote-unquote good. Its only function is to do gain 3 life. It's removal, but the gain 3 life is only to negate what's going on already with your lands. And here he's forced to, because he had to get rid of his own land through the Deathrite Shaman, he's forced to put out a Tarmogoyf that's weak to Bolt. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to Bolt his Tarmogoyf and kill it. And it doesn't even make the next Tarmogoyf he may or may not have, and he's stronger. It's in a pretty bad place. He's got two lands in hand, mind you. And that's it to really make himself feel better. I don't know. The Domain Zoo seems to have so much against that it has to play against itself as well, which is not what you want to be doing as a deck. And I mean, of course, he's going to try a Deathrite Shaman to kill me faster, and he has to go for the burn spells. He has to make his Deathrite Shamans into Grim Lavamancers instead of Scavenging Oozes because, well, he's got nothing else he can do. I mean, he's got to get my damage source down. And then here, I'm going to swing all out, knowing he's not going to block, because if he blocks, that's fine too. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to Volcanic Fallout. Yes, this Volcanic Fallout should not have been in my side, or should not have been in my main deck. It was a mess up, but it is worth noting that I don't think it would have mattered if I played this or not. It was convenient, but I had the Kitchen Finks to hold him off, as well as I had the extra aggression in the form of Flint Hoofbore, that if he'd ended up going all out swinging, it really would not have mattered too much. So I'm under the belief that card actually didn't really matter all that much. So anyways, I wipe his board, which is fine. He gets a Lightning Bolt, which means, well, it's what? It's going to do some amount of removal. That's fine. Removal is not necessarily good, especially since I had a Kitchen Finks in hand and a Hasty thing in hand. He doesn't want to remove the Finks here because it's counter-initiative to what he's trying to do. He's at this point hoping that he can Tribal Flames me for the win. I'm at a healthy 30, even without the Finks life, I'm at a healthy 11 life. That Tribal Flames is not going to kill me. Yes, it's fully activated for 5. Does it matter? Not really. The only chance he has is if he is basically double Tribal Flames, and he decides to use it as removal to slow down my chance of winning. Maybe he'll get a Goyf and be able to start blocking. But I don't know. The deck doesn't. I just don't think the deck really performs all that well. It basically lives off the back of a couple explosive cards. Now see, Tribal Flames used to be good when Jund was the deck to beat because you could not beat Jund any other way. You had to explore some explosive, quote-unquote, ways of winning, because if you didn't explode, Jund would have just won. That's not true anymore. Jund is no longer nearly as powerful. It's only got a 50-50 matchup to everything. So using it is not, I don't think, the right move. Fun fact, they run Core Firewalkers. That threw a wrench into my plan. Core Firewalkers, not actually that great against this deck. It's good against the burn spells, but against the creature decks, or the creature spells, which are mostly green, does not matter. And since my creatures are green and white as well, it's pretty good to just sort of like let it exist. He's going to gain some life off of those Core Firewalkers, but it won't be the end of the world, because eventually I will just kill it by blocking. He'll block and I'll kill it, or I will block and kill it. Anyway, it's this pretty good start that puts me on my heels for a little while. But with some clever plays around it, you know how to get around it, because he needs those Core Firewalkers to survive if he wants to win this game. If the Core Firewalkers die, it's basically starting to spell game over for you. So my best plan I can do here is grow my creatures. My creatures have more value than his creatures. Yes, he may have a Tarmogoyf. However, other than that, he's got a pretty weak creature in the form of Geist of St. Taft, because it's a 2/2, and for all intents and purposes, it basically says, if this opponent, it's a very good creature unless this opponent has anything to block with, in which case it is a expensive burn spell. It's a more expensive Boros Charm, which is basically what this is. Now, I made a choice. I used Experiment 1 right now, rather than waiting for it, because I could have grown this one to sort of start aggressing him with the Core Firewalker. But I knew his Core Firewalker was going to swing for 4 this turn, and I'm going to be losing some life. So it would be better for me to grow these guys to be blockers, rather than grow one guy to be a very quick attacker. Now, I can't target him with my burn spells, which is bad. Core Firewalker is very good against this deck, because it nulls out the removal against him. But it's not awesome. It's pretty fragile in the fact that you can still path it. Had I gone to game 3, I would have pathed it. Also worth noting, Volcanic Fallout does not kill the Core Firewalkers. Unlike Wrath, which will kill something with pro-white, it's just destroying every creature, so it's not targeting it. However, the source that is doing damage to it is red, and it has protection from red, so it nulls that out. And then he's got a pretty good Tarmogoyf here. The problem is I can't fall out here and wipe his board. I can fall out and kill his mana, which is a good option, but the better option is to just get rid of this Tarmogoyf. And I figure I can pretty much do that at any point in time. I can get rid of his Tarmogoyf if he doesn't cast a sorcery spell, is the real thing. Because if he casts a what do you call it spell, a bolt or something, I'm fine. So I choose to pump these guys up to 2/2s, because at worst I can double block and kill the Tarmogoyf if he's got some sorcery spell, and I don't want to fall behind in tempo. The burn spell can happen next turn. These guys can't wait any longer. So I pump them up. So now I've got a 2/2, a 2/2, and a 3/3. I know they say Curd Ape, but they're not. It's just my muscle memory. And so I've got 2/2, 2/2, and a 3/3. If he blocks with a Core Firewalker, I'll double block and kill a Core Firewalker. I don't care if I lose an Experiment 1 or if I lose a Flint Hoof Boar. If he blocks both, well then I will go ahead and double block, or block, and let it die. It's really no big problem to me. Should he throw out his Tarmogoyf out into the fray too, chances are I would have probably blocked like this. So that way I still kill his Tarmogoyf if he bolts. So he's attacking like this. So I'm going to go ahead and block and block. He'll have to bolt this guy to even consider his guy living. So it's not a big deal. And I decided to let the second one through because I'm at 10 life, which is not necessarily the worst place to be at. But I decided that I wanted these guys to live because they've got a good chance of becoming 3/3s next turn. But that thing is now a 3/4. That is important to remember. He's got probably a better board position than me. So I need to make up some quantity here, have some blocks. So I'm going to put out my Burning Tree Shaman. I'm going to gain him some life. But I'm also going to play Tarmogoyf off of it, meaning that I can block that Tarmogoyf indefinitely, but I can also use the Tarmogoyf to block my those core firewalkers. So I'm basically telling him, you have to advance your board position more if you want to get a better choice against me, especially since he can now block. I can now block, and be fine. He can attack with his Noble. He can just attack with his Tarmogoyf if he'd like. But in which case, I'll just toss my Burning Tree Emissary in front of it and block it. So it does not trample over. So I won't be getting hit for 5 or something. And then that's ridiculous for him because then I can retaliate and start swinging with my own Tarmogoyf and just chunk block. What I'm planning on doing is swinging all out next turn. I'm baiting him to do some blocks, baiting him to block my Tarmogoyf with his Tarmogoyf, and then letting me Lightning Helix it and kill it. Or just Volcanic Falling out and killing that, and then killing those Lingering Soul tokens. So it reduces his board position down to 2 core Firewalkers, and he'd gain 2 life, but whatever. But that's probably the play I'd like to do while thinking about it more. And the reason why is because his Noble Hierarchs are... nothing he owns can produce black right now. As such, he can't produce black. He can't flash back his Lingering Soul tokens. So it's no big deal. So that I decide that's definitely what I need to be doing here. I'm going to attack all out and bait him to just block the Tarmogoyf with his Tarmogoyf. He's not going to want to block anything else because it would kill it. The only thing that could get blocked here is the Burning Tree Emissary. And what I just decided to do more than anything else here is, since he's risking my Tarmogoyf's death here, and this guy is doing it, I'm going to make these guys indestructible instead. I still got another land that I can put down and Lightning Helix the Tarmogoyf since I drew that land. And that's a better play now, because I'm hoping he will flash back the Lingering Souls token next turn to shrink my Tarmogoyf and to get himself some more 1/1s, and then I can Volcanic Fallout and ruin his day. Also, it gains me a bit of life, which is nice. I know I'm only getting 1 life, technically, but it's still better than nothing. I've reduced his board position. I've made him lose a Tarmogoyf, which is the strongest thing he can do, and I've made him lose a Souls token. Ends up swinging with the Soul. That's going to be 3 damage there, flying in the air, because they're getting a nice little Noble Hierarch pump, which means I need to get rid of these Noble Hierarchs, is really what it means. These Noble Hierarchs, not good for business. He plays a Deathrite Shaman so that he can sort of like whittle me away now with the Lightning Helix and Boros Charm in my graveyard, as well as the Bolt in his. And that's what he wants to do. I'm going to attack all out. Reason why I'm attacking all out is he could block my something with a core Firewalker if he'd like. It really won't make that much of a difference. If I was him, I would have blocked that, but maybe he's worried I've got some kind of like trick. But what I can do, since Volcanic Fallout is an instant speed, and it's just awesome, I can go ahead and cast my Volcanic Fallout before any damage is dealt, even if he declares blockers. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want to see if I can bait whatever's in his hand. I don't know that it's a Scalding Tarn, but the best move he can do here is just to simply do 1 block and then be like, well, you're crazy, so I can swing all out and kill you. I'm going to Volcanic Fallout here. He's going to gain 2 life off of it, negating the 2 damage it does to her player. But it kills his Spirit Token, it kills his Deathrite Shaman, which is right now the only access to black mana he's got. He'd have to crack this, making himself go lower. And it allows me to hit for a lot. And I put out an Experiment 1 too, that I drew. And the reason why I put the Experiment 1 isn't really because he's awesome and I want to swing with him next turn. It's because I'm leaving him up for a blocker. He's just a chump at this point. Top decks Experiment 1s usually become chump blockers. So there you go. He's gonna put down a Noble Hierarch that he drew. He's gonna also get a Blood Crypt. Probably let it come into play tapped. He's got access to almost. Oh, he decides not to. He's gonna put down Lingering Soul Token so that he can make blockers and survives, and shrink my Tarmogoyf down. And that's fine. He needs to draw a burn spell, so the pressure's on to me that I need to end the game before he draws another burn spell. They only use, what, like 3 times 4? 12 burn spells in their deck total. As well as, I guess, some forms of Dismember, which won't end the game here. So it's fine for me to just attack all out here. And I can leave back the Experiment. And I will leave back the Experiment, mostly because he can just... Yes, even though it'll allow maybe to sneak in 1 extra damage, it means I lose a creature. I should be able to block here just in case he top decks a Bolt. And maybe, you know, like, swing with the Core Firewalker and bolt me to death or something like that. Or, I'm sorry, I should say, since he doesn't have access to blue here, be able to swing and Domain Flames me to death. So it's a better place just to leave this Experiment 1 up as a chump blocker. At worst, you know? And so he's left with a Core Firewalker and a Spirit. He draws a Bolt, so that's good that I left this guy up to block. Now, should he attack all out, I block 1, negate 1 of his life. Otherwise, he would have been for 3 damage, bring me down to 3, and he would have been able to bolt me. Experiment 1's. Hey, Experiment 1's got new art, by the way. He looks more like a bird slash merfolk or slash fish slash octopus. I like that better than I like this guy because Zoo wants zooey creatures. So he's not going to attack with the Core Firewalker because he knows I'm just going to go ahead and block, and that makes the Core Firewalker suddenly unable to be attacked with. He's trying to see if he can live through this turn. The truth is, he cannot. So I will attack here and leave it up so I can still block, so that I can deny a Bolt if Bolt was going to happen. And it'll what? Kill one of my Experiment 1s. I'm going to pop it out of combat. Remember that it can regenerate. That's something worth noting. So it's out of combat. It's tapped. It's gone. It's a 1/1. He's still got to do some blocks here because if he gets hit with any of them, with both of them, he'll die. So he's going to go down to 3, which is enough. And I wanted to see him lose the Core Firewalker. Now that he's lost that Core Firewalker, I can go ahead and Volcanic Fallout on his turn if he draws anything worth noting, and kill his Spirit. So yeah, he would have had the Tribal Flames been able to win if he drew that. It's aggressive. It's aggressive, and his deck is explosive, but not consistent, which is what I don't like about the specifically the Domain Zoo. I think Domain Zoo was good for when Jund was a thing, and you had to become explosive, so that way you didn't just die to Jund. The Jund matchup is hard. I think this is probably a better Jund matchup than Gruul Zoo with the Splash of White, and the reason why is because historically aggro decks are weaker against mid-range decks because they just put up big beefy dudes that block. You can still win with sort of a just aggressive hand, but it's not as consistent. But But Domain Zoo is explosive enough and can win sort of out of nowhere with almost a combo-esque finish that they can sometimes just win the game, you know? So, I mean, it really depends if you want to run Zoo, if you want to run Domain Zoo. If you're in a unknown meta and you think that there's like some combo decks around and that you want to have sort of a chance at victory, I think Gruul Zoo is better because it's better overall. It's just a stronger deck. Whereas if you're good enough to sort of play the Domain Zoo archetype, which has a lot of intricacies in it because, again, you're playing your deck and you're playing the opponent's deck. You really don't want to die to your own deck, but that's possible with Domain Zoo and the damage it takes from itself. And you are playing like nothing but mid-range decks and like combo decks, well then maybe this would be a better choice for you because it has the chance to win out of nowhere. Regardless. Overall, I still think the Gruul Zoo, especially with the splash of white to go more aggressive on your burn spells, is a better deck all in all. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to get some more of these Zoo decks so I can get pretty much every archetype out of the way.